That's right, kids, shades and a leather jacket. That can only mean one thing. Time to review Tumblr's Doom Patrol. Oh shit, wait, no. That's in a couple weeks. Umbrella Academy. A lot of weird stuff goes on in the first season of Umbrella Academy, but for the sake of time and trying to keep things spoilers free, I'm going to not be going into it with that much depth. I'm just going to be letting you know whether or not you should watch it. God, why do I still have these on? I'm not auditioning for Top Gun. Okay, let's go. Right, so Umbrella Academy is one of the hottest things on Netflix right now. If you've been on Netflix lately, I'm sure you've heard of it. If you've been on Tumblr, you've definitely been hearing about it. And it's for good reason. It does bring us something new. It's a show based on a comic book that talks about superheroes, but it doesn't really feel like that. It doesn't follow a Marvel formula. It's not something that we're used to seeing in cinemas lately. It actually feels a bit more like a DC joint, but not entirely. There are some very key differences. But that's probably due to large part that it's a Dark Horse property, and that's all I'm really going to get into comparing it to different comic books. That's not what I'm here for. So let's get into the story itself. Was it good? The show relies the most heavily on its actors, and that's a good thing because they are the best part of this story and they interact with each other really well. A notable exception being I don't find Ellen Page's Vanya to be that intriguing, and I certainly think that her love interest was the worst actor in the entire show thus far. He was awful and, in my opinion, ruined pretty much every scene that he's in. Regardless, there is character development for every single character in this show, and it's extremely slow, and it's sometimes excruciating, but it always does come, and sometimes it comes in huge ways. There are certain characters that don't seem like they're going to be that important when the show begins, and they become huge, multifaceted people by the end of it, and you wonder how you ever thought you were going to get along without them. The other biggest strength of this show has easily got to be music. Not only the music that they chose to be in it and the original score, which were incredible, but the way that they used them to accentuate different scenes during the show, and the interesting ways that they tried to come up with spots to interject music where you wouldn't expect it. There's one scene, for example, and this isn't really a spoiler, there's an ice cream truck coming down the street, and through the ice cream PA speakers, instead of the da-na-na-na-na, it's Flight of the Valkyries, and it is the funniest rendition I've ever heard of that song, and it's still somewhat terrifying, and it just kind of goes to show how much the people in charge of mixing in the sounds really took their job seriously, but not too seriously. Now for some hater points. Parts of this show are extremely derivative. One of the first scenes when they're introducing all the characters, most of them had actually really great introductions. Luther's was kind of awe-inspiring, had a cool cinematic moment. Klaus's was funny and flashy and lighthearted. But when you see someone like Diego's, when the scene started, I legitimately thought I was watching a scene of Jason Todd. And that shouldn't be my first thought when I think of your character, is immediately thinking, oh, you mean like this other guy that already exists? And because of that, a lot of the things in this show, a lot of the twists in this show are extremely telegraphed. You'll see them coming multiple episodes in advance. They'll be trying to set somebody up to seem some sort of way, and you'll think to yourself, I don't know if I buy that. And then, sure enough, whatever you thought about that character, it's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen in the cheesiest way possible. Another way you can see this is that too many conversations end in a volatile or explosive manner because the characters don't talk to each other like people. They're trying to ooh, ah, and get their little words in edgewise, and instead one character doesn't have time to hear it or whatever. Instead of just saying, wait and listen to me, it's this thing, and just really condense it so the person will hear you out, they kind of hem and haw, and they don't do it the way an actual conversation would be if the consequences were as dire as they were in this show. And that pretty much leads to the only major conflict. The only other real downside I can think of is that some characters or situations felt like they were being written by multiple people. The character of Klaus, for example, definitely seems like there was multiple people stirring the pot there, because they have this whole thing where they want to go through, well, okay, I won't get into the spoilers, but he definitely seems like he's going one way, and it seems like someone else wants to take him in this direction, and they don't really know which one they're going to do, so they keep on flipping back and forth. And don't even get me started on how they handle the concept of withdrawals. He goes through the entire withdrawal process from drugs in like a day, and I believe he does that multiple times, and it's super odd to see because they act like his addiction's a huge problem for him, and then all of a sudden it's just not when the plot needs it to not be. I don't know, just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Overall, the show has got some great things going for it. And I know I ragged on it a little bit longer than I sung its praises, but it is really good, and I'm excited to see what they do in the second season. Admittedly, the ending for season 1 is not a cliffhanger. It is just letting you know that season 2 is going to finish the story that season 1 started, which is lazy because, in my opinion, season 1 does not stand on its own. However, it has got me excited to see the ending, so I guess they got me there, and I can't really complain too much. This felt more like the rough draft of a great show than a great show in and of itself. With that being said, it came off like the rough draft of a great show, so it did come off being quite good. And as long as they keep everything rolling in the next season and just smooth out some of those trouble patches they had, they're going to have a big time fan in me, and I'm sure they're going to have a big time fan in a lot of people. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It was a pretty good time, but let's just pump the brakes on talking about how credible it is.